So they say always expect the unexpected. How does that work? I was virtually packing up and I decided a bit of time left, and it was a beautiful beach, beautiful morning, albeit freezing cold. I decided to have a wander down and see if there was any shots to be had. There's lots of frosted weed on the top of the rocks here that I thought might make a nice macro shot, but when I were down here looking around, I noticed that where the tide's gone out in this pool, there's some sandbars, and each of the bars has become filled with shingle and bits of broken off weed, and they've created these almost ribbed effects that make a beautiful leading line to the distant mountain. And to cap it all, the light improved. Now I've taken the image. I couldn't hang around. I had to be quick. The light improved and the clouds coloured up really quite strongly, and because they're probably holding a lot of water, they look like they're about to burst. They're quite dark on the underside, so they look quite imposing, and it's a very, to me, it's a very, very strong image of a wild location. And yeah, I was instantly sort of racing around trying to get image as quickly as possible. It's a dead simple setup. I've got the Lee landscape polarising filter on the front, a 0.6 grad, just to make those clouds look a little bit more impressive. Focal length of 24mm. I'm on f14, varying that f14, f11. I'm not stopping down to f22 because what I'm going to do with this image, I've actually focus stacked it. I've taken a series of images because the foreground is actually really quite close to the lens, and we've got quite a long way to the distant mountains. So one of the images was focused roughly here, right at the base of the image. Second one at the back of the pool, and then lastly on the mountains beyond. So here's the shot. So I couldn't leave without shooting the frosty seaweed, and I've scoured the beach back and forth for about half an hour, and it's full of it, trying to find a nice composition. And what you're faced with images like this is, because you've got high magnification, depth of field is really crucial. And I've got 100mm macro lens on, and I'm only about 12 inches away from the subject, the weed. So what I've been looking for is a group of weed that not only has got a visual appeal, but it's also on a flat plane. And by flat plane, I mean, if you imagine that's the weed, and this is the camera, well, the image sensor is flat, and the image sensor needs to be parallel, flat, to the weed in order to maximise depth of field. Now, if I choose an aperture like f4 for example, or f2.8, which is what this lens is, the chances are any areas which are undulating on the seaweed will show us out of focus, and I'll only have certain areas of the image that are sharp. So what I've done is I've stopped down to f18. I can even go to f22, this lens will take it, to maximise the depth of field, and any undulations in the weed won't be as apparent. And that's the reason why I've searched and searched to try and find, like I say, not only an area of seaweed that's nice and flat, but some that's got visual appeal as well. So I've finally found it. Pop this on live view. Where's the button? There we go. So as you can see, I've got a nice fan shape to the weed, and hopefully the camera back is nice and flat to the actual weed itself. I feel personally that the size of the I think you call them fronds of the weed. There's a redwing that just flew past. The fronds of the weed, or whatever you call them, I'm not too sure. I should know that as an ecologist, but I don't. For me, it's critical that you don't get them too big and you don't get them too small. Too many fronds in, and I feel that it just looks messy. If they're too large, they obviously become too dominant. So there's a critical size for me personally, and I'm sure that's different for other people. But what I've got here on the back of the camera is lovely, and I'm really happy with that. I've put a polarizer on. I tried it without, and I did find that without, that there was some reflected light on the surface of the seaweed. It's quite shiny, so it helps to get rid of that. And that's all there is to it. 100mm macro lens, currently on f14. Switch off live view, blind shot at the back, 2-second timer. Quite a long exposure. It's quite dark weed. I'm not sure yet whether I need to compensate. I thought I might have had to underexpose the image just slightly, just to bring it back, bring the darkness back into the image, using the compensation dial to get it exactly where I need it to be. But overall, really nice image to finish the morning. The tide's coming in. I'm going to be swamped any minute now. See you soon.